It's fine, we're talking together. Hello, 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 everyone on the different translation page and also on our website, differenttranslation.com. We're trying to stream it on there. We actually had a pretty cool setup where we were going to be in different rooms, but for some reason, my computer did not like StreamYard today, even though I've used it forever. But such is life. I am Antonio Miniño. My pronouns are they, them. I am one of the creative partners at Different Translation, and I am also the director of The Baby Monitor, written by the amazing David Stallings, who is right next to me. And we are getting ready to go to Italy this November as part of the OnStage Festival. We will be performing in Rome and in Cagliari, which is pretty outstanding. And so this is just the first of our Baby Monitor talks. We hope to have all the creative team and performers and creative partners do this as well. So this is not the last you'll hear from us on this kind of live event. And we're going to start from the very beginning. And I'm going to put David on the spot. David, can you tell us a little bit about the origins of the Baby Monitor back when it was a short play?
Sure. I was originally asked to write a short play for a little short play festival, I guess, or series that a director friend of ours, Tom Slott, was putting together for his company, and asked us to write, the playwrights to write something about being naked. That was the theme. And so I decided to write a piece about fear and what made me most afraid. And so when thinking about fear and naked and all of that combined, I imagined literally us as parents. And if we were to do that, which we're not, but if we were, all of the fears that would go into that. And I was also inspired by a picture of my father holding me when I was a baby. And it's a beautiful picture, and I no longer have my father, and I think of that picture with a lot of love, and he's holding me and I'm a baby, and we're in the shower together, and he's very proud. And so I was thinking about that and about how in the context of a gay couple, that could be given some pretty heavy and upsetting negative context from people who are coming into it with a different perspective or with some bias. And so I wrote about my fear, and I wrote about a couple dealing with someone in their family who says they love them, who is the person who brings that fear and brings that judgment and that bias into the family, especially because I know that I come from a place where many people in my life, and especially family, have said, I love you, I love you, I love you. But actions and bias and judgment and all of that end up detracting. So it was a short play for a little bit, and then I wanted to make it into a long form. I imagined that I wrote the final scene and wanted to see the play through from the first scene, from the instance where Claire, the loving cousin, sees the picture for the first time. And offstage characters I wanted to make real, like Soledad and like Josh and Shelley. All of them are mentioned in the final scene and in the original short play, but I wanted them to be the major characters as well. So it went from a 3-hander to a 6-hander, and then just had many readings, many drafts, much input from many lovely actors, creatives, directors, just lovely humans I trust along the way. And then we went and it got produced in New York, which was great. And then we went to Dublin, and then we were invited to Serbia, to Belgrade, for their Pride and for the first ever theatrical pride in a series there. And we were brought over. It was an amazing experience. We played the National Theater there. And then we were supposed to go to Italy in 2020 in November. And then COVID happened and the arts, you know, were muted. And many of us had to disperse and we lost our jobs. So it's amazing that we have this grant now and the support of the Italy OnStage crew to bring us to Italy and perform in Rome and Cagliari and finally bring it there. You know, some amazing people had been working on it. The play had been translated into Italian. And so we're really excited to finally go to Italy with just this amazing team. So that's kind of the journey from there to here. And the play has grown a lot, you know, over the years and as it developed.
Nice. So I guess something that I'm always curious about collaborating with you, and seeing the journey of this piece and how it's changed, not just in rewrites, but just how we try and give a new experience to everyone that comes sees it. So it's not like we change it a lot
Right.
on my end as a director, but there's definitely a different focus. There's a different energy depending on the country that we do the show in, and to me, that's very valuable and important, and the reason why we gain a lot from traveling the show. To me, I'm in theater to heal through what I do, whether it's as an actor or as a director, but to have that kind of connection with the audience, which is when COVID happened and we kind of all went into this virtual world, which I appreciate that it existed and that it happened, because it kept us creative. At the same time, there was this other audience member that was missing that piece. So tell me a little bit about how what that means to you, if it's kind of the same, and also how the audiences, being from different backgrounds and different countries, how the perception of the piece for you as someone that's on stage, and also for you as a writer, how it's changed, morphed, and maybe how it's informed the progression of the piece.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do this play without an audience. I don't want to do it without an audience, meaning live. I don't want to Zoom this piece. The piece is in every piece presentation of this play, the audience has vocal reactions. You know, when it was staged at a staged reading in LA, Blank Theater, you know, literally at certain points, a couple of audience members had feelings about some of the characters and yelled them at the stage. And in New York as well, you know, the actress playing Claire, the amazing Amanda Jones, you know, at times felt like the audience was about to walk on stage with a pitchfork or something. You know, in the coastal cities, when it's been seen and presented, Claire and her thoughts and her feelings have been harshly judged by the audience. Whereas when we went to Dublin, she got a lot of empathy from the audience, and a lot of people were able to relate with her. And same-sex parenting was a hot topic, and rights to the LGBTQ people were not as free and open as they had been here in the States. And conversations with loved ones were very difficult. And so a lot of people had Claire's in their lives or had some of Claire's feelings. And actually, the gay couple, the male presenting couple in the play, got a few like, "Oh, how dare you! You know, want to boycott pasta in your home because whatever. Like, and why would you throw a fit about Berea?" Well, I throw fits about Berea, but it's so it was much more. Evenly spread, and both Damon and Claire were seen as being a bit neurotic, and they are both a bit neurotic. And so that was interesting. And then in Serbia, you know, one of the ambassadors, someone from the embassy there after the performance at the theater said, I think this is the first time political theater has been in our national theater. So that was pretty fantastic. And there, when we walked in the parade the next day and people were coming up to us and saying, we don't see gay representation on stage. We don't see gay families on stage. We don't see our loved ones and ourselves on stage in Serbia. And that was so impactful. And so in each country, in each city we've gone to, it's had a tremendous impact. And the two cousins who share so much of the fight of the play, and also Soledad and Philip, all four of them were raised extremely Catholic. And in different communities, but that religion is pretty predominant in the upbringing of most of the characters in the play. And so going to Rome and doing this in Italy is going to be impactful because so much of the scarring and cultural stigmas come from a very Catholic upbringing, and both Antonio and I had very Catholic upbringings. So that definitely has an impact on the play, the characters, the journey, and the life of this piece. Early on in the play, Damon says, "We're not sending our child to Catholic school, and why would you think we would consider that?" And Claire was like, "Well, that was our childhood. And you're denying your child what was so intricate to us." And she doesn't understand the pain that can have for Damon and Philip. So I'm really excited to see what this feels like in Italy.
Yeah. Something that I do really love about this play and appreciate is, and the reason why we use the hashtag tolerance is not acceptance
Mhm.
a lot is because all the characters in the play have different degrees of tolerance and different degrees of acceptance. So there's no one that is drawn as a full blown anything in any way. And I think that gray area is what makes it yummy to play with. It's what makes it yummy to perform, to put together. But it's also what's interesting that I find with audiences is the audiences that lean into that grayness and uncomfortableness, and then the audience that really needs full on black and white archetypes, right? Like who am I supposed to be rooting for and who am I not supposed to be rooting for? And what I love about this play is that changes throughout the 90 minutes, right? And so we say that it's kind of like a train that leaves the station. And once it does, there's like no going back until curtain. So I do really love that about the piece. Obviously, the fact that we have some yummy scenes in Spanish always warms my heart. It brings the butterflies out, and it's always fun to see audiences that understand what's happening and audiences that don't necessarily understand Spanish but get kind of like the energy of what's going on. And one of the things that we've done um, in Serbia being the first experience where the play was translated to a different language was that we requested that the Spanish is not super titled, that this is a moment where maybe you as an audience member, if you don't understand what they're saying, what does that feel like? What does this moment that is otherness for you, but is the core to them, what does that do to you as an audience member? And does it reflect in any way an understanding of how these characters live in their day-to-day world and the code switch that they have to do to live in a day-to-day world in the US as immigrants. So and there's also the story of colorism and the fact that the character of Philip, there's a status difference play there between Philip and Soledad, which is kind of stripped away once they both become immigrants, right? And that kind of very cool, and by cool I mean exciting, just conflict between them. It's really 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 cool. I really really love that, and I appreciate that you were able to capture that in into the piece.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's important to capture gray whenever possible, and not to have, you know, a white hat kind of character who comes in and saves the day. I find that very boring, um, and um, and not telling and not true. And it's so interesting because specifically when dealing with a play where there are one or two scenes in Spanish, and we intentionally from the beginning didn't want to super title that, didn't want to have that translated. You know, this is the language that these people speak, and they're going to have an argument. They're going to speak in that in their first language, and it's so interesting because the people who would come to me and say, "Well, why didn't you have that translated? Why weren't there super titles?" You know, it often spoke less to the play and more to the entitlement of people who aren't used to feeling out of the conversation. And there's a moment in this play where I think every single character feels not in the conversation fully and has feelings about that, feelings about not belonging. And also when it comes to code switching, you know, I think, you know, people who are othered, code switching is part of everyday life. Even thinking about what I'm going to wear when going to the store, depending on what city I am in and how comfortable I feel and my comfort level. And, you know, all of us feel that way to the words we choose to, am I mispronouncing this? All of those are those code switching things are things we do. And it increases the more you are othered. And so I feel like in the play at one point, one of the characters says, you know, of course I never felt completely comfortable around you. Of course I always was guarded around you. And and there's a reason for that. And why don't we get into why you felt I was guarded and you projected why I might be guarded as to something insidious, as to simply I don't feel protected. I don't feel safe when I'm around you, and that kind of safeness is blurred because I don't think there's anyone who, you know, it goes both ways, because then when that character is not feeling safe, he becomes very cold and dismissive and almost arrogant, and because we don't always handle every situation with grace, and entitlement, you know, goes a lot into the different characters of this play, as does code switching and colorism, and just the different ways entitlement presents itself. um, yeah.
Yeah, well, depending on the stakes and what's happening, what a lot of the characters do, you know, that ugliness rears out, and
Hmm.
each one of them, maybe not Shelley, but that's up for debate. Some people might find that the Shelley character is too high strung, right? Like to burn the aisle down.
Yeah.
So, but there are these moments on each character, even the ones that you're rooting for, where all that ugliness kind of comes out, and it's a great reflection on you know reality, and on it's really a lesson on doing better, right? It's like,
Hmm.
how can we're gonna keep effing up. How do we do better? How can we do better as a family, as a community, and learn from each other, about each other? How do we forgive each other if we can? And how do we figure out if who's still part of your family and who isn't as your family grows, as you also mature and grow into who you truly are? And I think that's really wonderful and beautiful and very well captured. It sounds like I'm just like praising and praising the play all over the place, which I am. But do you have any questions for me?
No, I mean, you know, we've been collaborating together for so many years and on this project for quite some time. So it always feels safe in the room that you create, and you always make sure that every time we approach the piece, um, we recreate that safeness. It's never taken for granted, especially. Um, in the rooms you create specifically. And as you've been doing that important work, when it comes to consent, when it comes to intimacy, and knowing that intimacy is not just a physical intimacy. Um, and that's the work I think that we as a entertainment, theatrical culture need to be hard pressed into, is exploring intimacy in a safe way, in a brave way, and not where we're going to be jeopardized. And starting out in the theater, when we both did, in that environment of, if you're putting yourself in danger, you're being brave, you're being a true artist. Where and it was very self-abusive, I would find, especially in the heavy topic work. And I'm so glad that the entire industry is taking a look at how we can make it safer, and actually learning that actors and writers and directors and creatives can go further in tough work when they feel safe and when there is structure, as opposed to just being thrown into a stage of broken glass.
Right, because the work is still brave.
Right.
And that's all that matters. Like, keep yourself safe, and the work can still be great, brave, and it can still affect an audience the way it needs to. So we're getting to the portion of the big ask, which is also part of why we're here. So we have been hashtag so blessed with a great grant, and I want to make sure that I read it correctly because it involves a lot of fantastic foundations that have come together to create this grant. Mm-hmm. So, in the correct wording, this engagement of the baby monitor is supported by Mid-Atlantic Arts through USArtists International. I'm scrolling. In partnership with the National Endowment for the Arts, the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, and the Howard Gilman Foundation. That is a lot of fancy big names that have that are believing in our work and believing in this leg of our work to go to Italy. However, as you know, it takes a village, and this grant will cover our airfare, some of our housing, some of our per diems, but we need a couple of little more. We're on our road to raising 15K, and we are doing that through GoFundMe, which I believe there is a link already attached to this Facebook Live, but I will also drop it like it's hot in the comments so you can contribute to our efforts to take the baby monitor to Italy. And there are different levels of giving. We've created that as well. And there is a great, yummy co-producer level for just $5,000, you can get co-producer credit and be part of this amazing show. And as you can tell, it has moved from New York to Dublin, to Belgrade, now to Rome and Cagliari, which means that there is more to come. And what better show to be involved with, and a show that promotes equity, that promotes equality, that really delves deep into the microaggressions that some of us are living on a day-to-day basis and that are important to be exposed and to be part of the conversation. And we're also here to heal, to show that a modern family can be beautiful, and all those yummy stuff. So I'll drop it here as well in the comments, even though it's also on the top. And we cannot wait to bring this work to Italy. And we also are hoping that we'll bring it back to New York at some point. And those are some of the wishes. What wishes do you have for this show after Italy? Like the big dream, the big ask.
I would love for this team and this production to grow and to have more opportunity to be exposed. But obviously, I want the play itself to go on and have performances and different productions, everywhere. I think one of the original New York reviews said, "Isn't it great? But wouldn't it be greater if it could be seen in the middle of the country?" And that is what I would love. I would love that, but we all know that until it's seen on a broad level, until it's noted on a broad level, it's not going to be seen in the smaller communities that really need it. And these characters come from smaller communities, and I tend to write people who don't originally come from large cities, from the bigger cities. They may migrate there, but usually my characters come from somewhere else, and so I want it to be seen there. Um, anyway, those are my dreams.
I love that. We should do like a full-on mobile unit, like the Shakespeare mobile unit, but it'll be the baby monitor mobile unit. And then we'll just like get in a van, all 10 of us, and go around the different cities and see how it does.
Yeah.
So if you want to drop more than 15K, we'll make that mobile unit happen. So thank you so much for taking time to listen to us just talk about the stuff we love. And we will be back with more Baby Monitor Talks with new guests. And hopefully my computer will work and we can be in different little squares.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you to everyone who's donating so far.
Yes, love you all. Thank you to our contributing angels. And with that, we end our broadcast.